All right, so an issue I tend to see quite a bit more than I should is when there's a blowout around an outlet or a switch like this, or you simply have that when they installed this, they cut the hole for the box just a little bit too large. So today we're going to go over how to fix this with just tape and mud. All right, guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe, hit that like button so you get notified as soon as we put out a new video. Let's get started. All right, guys, before we actually start patching this, let's go ahead and shut off our power just to make sure we don't get shocked. Now I want to take my knife and I just want to clean up some of this around here. So if you got paper that's sticking out, let's go ahead and clean that up. When we mud this, we don't want it bubbling. And I'm going to kind of go at an angle like that. I can cut that back. Now the next thing we want to do is just mix up some mud. Now I'm going to use some quick set 20-minute stuff, and I like this because it doesn't shrink as much and it sets up a lot faster. You can use the all-purpose stuff. You're just going to need to wait till it sets up, which again can take at least 24 hours. Now if you got something behind the area you cut out, simple solution is to just fill it up with mud and then tape over the top. If you don't, what you can do, and we'll try to get a straight edge here. Okay, measure this out like that. I'm going to go about 1 inch past on each side. There, that. And we'll do the other side too. And then we'll need one for the top if you're doing the top or the bottom. But for right now, I don't think we need to do those just yet. And we'll do a small one for the top. Again, about 1 inch past. Then what we want to do is we just want to take our paper tape here, and what we want is we want this to harden. So instead of filling this up, because if we fill it up and there's no back there, it's just going to fall through and it's not going to sit right. It's going to fall one way or the other, and we're not going to get that very well. So we're just going to cover our paper tape here with our mud like that. Again, get it nice and covered there. We can take that. I'll just put that right over the top. Line that up. And you can cover that up a little bit more. Now, if it's going over just a little bit, it's okay, because we can, once this hardens, then we're just going to give that about 20 minutes. Let that get nice and solid, and then we can go ahead and mud it and cover it up and blend everything out. We'll go ahead and do the other side here too. Do the other side. And you could probably let this get a little bit nice and covered in mud. Side. All right, so as you can see, I let this set up for about 20-25 minutes, just until it was solid. And as you can see, it is pretty solid now. I'm going to come back now with another pan of 20-minute mud. This is going to be a little bit smoother, but it is still the 20-minute mud. It's going to be quick set. I'm going to knock down any high spots. I'm not sanding this. It is quick set, and that doesn't sand real well. So now we can just come back. We're going to put some more mud on this here. I'm going to fan it out a little bit. Now, I am going to go all the way around this, just so that when I'll get the bottom and the top, and that's because, and that way when I go and set my cover plate over the top, I don't have any weird ridges. It sits down farther on one side. This just levels it out a little bit. A little tough right there next to the door. All right, now I'm going to let that set up again, and then I'll come back with some all-purpose mud and we'll clean it up. For it, let's clean up our spots here. All right, so since I've made my second coat a little bit thinner, I went ahead and let it sit a little bit longer. So this has been sitting for probably 30-45 minutes. It's dry to the touch. You'll still see it's kind of dark here, but it is dry to the touch. So I'm going to go ahead and do my skim coat. And for this, I'm just going to use some USG all-purpose mud. All right, so for my skim coat, I'm just going to use some all-purpose mud. It takes longer to set up, and it'll take 24 hours, but that's okay. It's my last coat, so let's go ahead and... Now, the other thing I'm going to do to this before I mix it, I'm just going to dump a little water in there, just because I want this thinned out and no bubbles. Just mix it up nice and good. Get all the bubbles out. All right, now before I put on my skim coat, I'm going to take my knife. I'm just going to knock down any high spots, because the last thing I don't want any boogers or anything else in my skim coat mud. So again, just get down any high spots. Might be, and like I said, you could let this set up a little longer if you wanted to, but it's dry enough that I can go ahead and skim coat it. So just get any boogers out of there. Now we always want to make sure our skim coat tools are very clean, because like I said, we don't want any boogers. So we'll just take our skim coat here. And again, we're going to do all of it because we want that plate to sit even. Just pull it tight. From this point, I'm going to go all the way to the door on this and fill that in. Now the ridges you're going to see here, they're thin, but you'll see little ridges. Those are okay because they will sand out. If you got holes, if you got spots where you got bubbles, those will need to be filled in. But you can sand out the little ridges and make that look just fine. It's such a tiny spot in between the door there. All right, so that's our skim coat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let this sit for 24 to 48 hours. We'll see when I get back here next. But let it dry, harden, and then I'll come back, sand it, and then that's the point at which if you needed to texture it, you could texture, and then you could add some paint on it. But we'll come back and we'll sand it once it's completely dry and hardened up. All right, so now that we've let our all-purpose mud sit for 24 hours at least, for me it's actually been a little bit longer than that, but now we're just going to come back with a sanding sponge, and really you shouldn't have to do a lot. We're just going to try to get out any little ridges, anything like that. Just sand this out like this. Just kind of go around. Again, just trying to get out any small ridges like that. You shouldn't have any big gap holes or anything like that. Sand it down here. And again, you might have to do a little bit more. Get it smoothed out. If you got a texture, if you're going to texture this, this is when you want to do your texture. Come back with your texture. And I've got some other videos you can check out on that. And then we're going to come back or texture it, let it dry, and then you'll come back and paint it if you need to. As you can see, I haven't even painted the wall yet. So I will come back and paint everything, but you just want to try to match it up. Your best bet at this point is if you've done a patch in the wall and you really want it to look exactly the same, the best option is always to repaint the wall. Not always the easiest option because it means repainting the wall. So you can always, try to go to one of your local hardware stores, try to paint match, something like that. But that would be what you'd want to do next. And really that's all there is to it. Now you can set your plate back on here and it will be flush and it will look right.